introverted noise. Hurry up, Daddy.
All right. Another day, another position. We are back with the one-a-day draft series. My name is Jason Brown. I will be your host today. You can find me on Twitter at BrownJason. And I'm joined by the man who works on the skill positions for us here come draft time. The people who operate with some space around them, the athletes, if you will. Wide receiver one, Clamps. We're going to be here today talking about Myles is maybe the position he should have been playing all along.
No, I can promise you that's not true.
So what's going on, Myles? How you doing?
I'm pretty good. I'm excited to talk cornerbacks.
Yeah, and we're excited because we can't talk about corners, especially the timing is perfect. This week Adam Thielen signs the big deal, and you might very well be the last person to put clamps on Adam Thielen.
I know, man. He owes me some money.
I mean, you went the wrong way. You were out there trying to catch the ball. You should have been stopping people from catching the ball. Or was it the tackling you weren't about? Because sometimes you wide receivers don't really like getting in there and mixing it up.
You might be right in that. I was definitely like an ankle biter.
Yeah, just gotta dive, grab. You're not paying. You're not paying cornerbacks to tackle though.
Right. If he's on the ground, that's all that matters.
That's true. Well,
I do remember talking mess to Thielen though when I played him in high school.
Well, he done turned the tables on you now.
Yeah, I think he made a name. I think he's doing all right.
That's hilarious. Well, you get down to training camp again. We're gonna have to see if we can get you out there to line up for one snap against him or something. See if we can get some new footage.
I'm not doing that. I'm not pulling in a reef. No.
R.I.P. a reef. Well, with the quarterbacks, this is another one of those positions that I don't know. It feels like a lot of people feel like they know what they are looking at when they're talking cornerbacks. I don't know if that many people actually do. I feel like we can just see them, and especially, if a guy plays a lot of man, we feel like you can see a mirror, flip his hips, things like that. But I know from your perspective and having conversations with you offline, there's really a lot more than goes into the position than just being like a great athlete or being able to play man coverage. So when you are sitting down to watch tape and really digging into the cornerback position, what are the things you're looking at? What are the traits that are most important? And what are the things you see in college that are most important in terms of evaluating how a guy is going to transition to the next level?
Yeah, being able to turn and flip your hips is an important thing at any level to play the position, because you have to work and play backwards. That's probably the toughest part about the position, is everybody else is moving forwards and you're moving backwards, and you're moving backwards against athletes that are as athletic or more athletic than you might be. So you have to do things that help give you an advantage. That's why being able to get up in a guy's face and press him, having the right technique to do that is really important for some guys, because they might not have the long speed or the ability, down the field to turn their hips and stay with a guy. So their ability to kind of bully some receivers kind of helps them and gives them an advantage. So there's a whole bunch of different things that a cornerback can do. But the things that I really look for, I look for footwork, guys that they have quick feet, flexible hips, the ability to turn and run on a dime, and then stop on a dime and change direction. Change direction for, obviously both corner and wide receivers, extremely important. Because you watch some of these receivers and how quickly they get off of a spot and make movements, and you need a cornerback to be faster than that, because they're working, like I said, they're working backwards. So they need to have a better ability to do that on that end of the field. So I really look for the hips, the feet, and then I just look for like guys that can read and react. What are their instincts? What is when I watch film? Does a guy look like he has a good understanding of what he expects from a wide receiver or from an offense in general to do, and based off what he's being asked to do on the defensive side of the ball, what the scheme is, what the coverage is and stuff like that. Does he know what everybody else around him is doing? I know a lot of people forget, they might not think about it, but a lot of these positions, you need to know what what the guys next to you and maybe even like in the trenches are doing and what their responsibilities are, because that affects what you do and how you play and the coverages you're in. So I flip it. It's so easy to kind of compare wide receivers and cornerbacks because they go hand in hand in what you need to know. So like as a cornerback, what you want to know, you need to know the entire defense. You need to know what everybody's responsibility is, because when you know that, you know why someone is moving to a certain spot, you know what your responsibility is compared to somebody else's. And that's an extremely important thing to understand and know, because then it makes you play faster. Because if you know exactly what someone else's do, what their responsibility is, and then you know what yours is, you can play a little bit faster because you understand why things are being asked of you and what they're being asked of you. So that's really what I look for. I look for guys that they just they have a good understanding of reading and reacting off of off of coverages, off of routes, lots of different things like that. So it's more of just like an instinctual thing for me. I watch guys tape and I see their abilities in that sense. So like a guy last year, Mike Hughes I was really big on Mike Hughes last year because you could see that ability in him. He read and react extremely well. He was a good tackler. He had really good hip flexibility. Wasn't the fastest guy, but he's explosive, and his ability to go get the ball and attack the ball in the air. Those things are extremely important for me when I'm watching cornerbacks. So I use Mike Hughes as an example because I just thought his film from Central Florida last year was really good.
And shout out to Myles. You definitely, we'll say you were right on that one, just based on how quickly he progressed and how quickly, just based on how cornerbacks in the past have taken some time to really get acclimated and get up to speed and be able to do work in Zim's scheme. And Mike Hughes seemed he got there a lot faster than, Trey Wayne, Xavier Rhodes, Mackenzie Alexander, and many others that went before him. So
yeah, and he was asked to play inside and outside.
Yeah, and he was asked to do a lot more. So props to you on picking that one up. But there's just one thing, and I don't want us to go too far off a tangent before we get to these names from the draft. But you mentioned something, because hips and feet, that's something that gets thrown around a lot, especially, I think we were talking before we started recording about like a Trey Waynes, where his hips, his hip flexibility or lack thereof has been something that people have talked about with Trey Waynes since he came into the league. And, over time, he's been able to develop into an above average corner, a great number 2 corner. When you're saying, hips or stiff hips or, quick feet, not quick feet, can you maybe break down what that means for us in maybe even simpler terms, like you're explaining it to like a child or something?
Well, I think if we'll start with feet, so just quick feet. So, you see a lot of cornerbacks, a lot of skill position players, they work the ladders, they work things that just help speed up their footwork. Things that they can, work on their drive, work on things that straight line, back and forth, and being able to stop on a dime and cut and make movements like that. That's kind of where I look at footwork. Watching guys that can, if you're sitting across from a receiver at the line of scrimmage and you're asked, you need your feet to be quick because you need to be able to make a movement inside or outside depending on which way the receiver is going to move. And then that coincides with how your hips are, because if you don't have flexible hips, it'll take a little bit longer for you to be able to turn and make those movements. When you're turning and opening up your hips to move, again, inside or outside, depending on the movement of the receiver. So to kind of break down in a quick stance, it's just one of those things, like a lot for hips in terms of hip flexibility. It's more of a natural thing that guys have. It's not something that it might not destroy your career or something like that. Like you said, Trey Waynes, it is kind of a liability in a sense for him, but he's been able to overcome it because of how they ask him to play and the scheme he's in, and they kind of allow him to play to his skill set. So like I know when he was first drafted, people talked about, well, can he play in the nickel? And there's no way he could play in the nickel. That's just not his skill set. He doesn't have the hips to be able to move laterally that way and open up inside and outside and run and man coverage in that sense. But when he plays on the outside, he can back off at times and play off coverage, or he can move up and jam. But his ability and his strength to jam, and I talked about this earlier, it slows down receivers enough to allow him to recover. And then obviously he's got track speed, so not many people can run past him. So that really helps him. His ability to jam and slow down a receiver's momentum, it allows him to recover the lack of hip flexibility that he does have with that elite speed that he has.
Okay. All right. Thank you, sir. And, I'm just trying to help you out here because, you got some, new additions on the way.
Yeah.
And you think that you understand a lot of things in life until you have to explain those things that you think you understand to a child. And then you'll really understand if you do understand what you think you understand when you have to explain it in words that, a child will actually understand. So thank you for going and making that simple so that all of us can really keep up with what everyone's talking about.
I hope I simplified it as best I could. But
yeah, man, you did your thing. Well, let's do it here. Let's get into it. Day one of this draft. It seemed like early in the process, there were a lot of corners that were getting a lot of hype, but as the process is dragged along, doesn't really seem to be that much talk of corners anymore. So who are the ones you like? And did some guys fall off?
Yeah, so this is I find this to be a weird cornerback class just because of the guys that they have. They're kind of all over the board. Like you said, there really doesn't seem to be that consensus player. I know for the longest time, and I still believe he probably should be considered cornerback one. Greedy Williams from LSU, he's that kind of guy that he's kind of got that Marcus Peters to his game. He's a ball hawk. He goes after he makes plays. He's not afraid to tell you he makes plays. I love that kind of mentality in a cornerback. But he's not as big of a fan of run support, which I know we've talked about this. Like, yes, would you like your cornerbacks to be physical and would you like your cornerbacks to be willing to tackle? Yes. All I really needed from my cornerback is him to get a guy on the ground. I don't care how he does it. Just do it. Just the willingness to do it is more of a thing than being good at it, especially on the outside. You see guys like an Antoine Winfield. He might be one of the best tackling cornerbacks and that's maybe ever played the game. I know that's saying a lot, but I mean that's how good he was at it. But it's more of a willingness thing too. And I'm not it doesn't bother me as much that Greedy's not as big into it because he's good in coverage, and that's what's most important. But for me, he'd probably be my cornerback one in this class. I have him as a day one prospect. And then I have Byron Murphy from Washington. He's kind of similar, got that similar mold to a Mike Hughes. I don't think he's quite to that level. I don't think he quite has that ball hawking ability or that explosion upfield and that read and react that Hughes had. But I think they're similar style players. They can play inside and out, and they're pretty good at reading and reacting. So that's kind of what I like about Byron Murphy, and I expect him to be kind of a later round one player. And then lastly, Justin Layne is a guy I don't think enough people are talking about, Michigan State cornerback. Big, lengthy guy, really athletic. He tested extremely well. He didn't run the fastest. I would have liked him to run a little bit faster, but the nice part for him is he was explosive, had a really good vert, really good in the broad jump, and then his arms are really long, 96th percentile. His wingspan's like an 80 and an eighth inches long. That's crazy. So that his ability that's kind of fits what his ability is that bump and run type of cornerback, and that's the kind of guy. Depending, certain teams need like a Mike Zimmer defense would definitely be looking for a guy like Justin Layne to fit that kind of role.
Oh no. There you go. Because I was about to say, as you were describing this man here, I'm like,
he's kind of got that Xavier. He's not as athletic. He's not quite
athleticism.
He doesn't have that like downfield explosion. That Xavier.
This is going to be the guy that no one's really ever heard of that Mike Zimmer goes and pounds the table for and drafts in the first round, and Vikings Twitter burns itself to the ground. Is that what you're telling me? Something
like that.
Okay.
I'd probably more compare him to like an Isaiah Oliver from last year, from Colorado. He's lengthy, has like I said, long arms, good in press coverage. He's that kind of guy that played. He's an outside corner, but I do like him as a day one corner. I wouldn't be surprised if he went in that 28 to 32 range.
Oh, okay. I like that. So is that it for day one, or you got any more?
No, that's it for day one. There are some guys I do like that we'll talk about in day two. I do think, kind of like wide receiver, I believe that this is an extremely day two heavy class for cornerbacks.
All right.
So
give
for
it to me. Let's go.
Yeah, day two for me. Clemson's cornerback, Trayvon Mullins, really good player. He did his thing at Clemson especially the last 2 years. Definitely their best, one of their better defensive players, especially when you talk about how good they are up front and the prospects they have there. But guy I really like. I think he can come in and be a contributor from day one. I like Deandre Baker from Georgia. For the longest time, I thought and I still believe he's going to be a really good player. He didn't test as well as you'd have liked, and I don't think he ran as well as you'd have liked. But you get him in the right scheme, and I think he can really excel. Julian Love from Notre Dame is another guy that I think he's kind of got that similar to Byron Murphy, a read and react type of corner. Not the biggest guy, but he's got really fluid hips and can make plays on the ball. Rocky Sin, he probably had the best Senior Bowl week out of the cornerback group. He's from Temple. He's a transfer. I don't know how I'm blanking on where he transferred from.
I thought you were going to say he has the best name when you took that pause right there, because Rocky Sin it's a pretty awesome name.
It definitely is, and he's a good player. He kind of came out of nowhere. He I for some reason cannot find where he it was not Old Dominion. It was one of those schools though. Excuse me. Anyways though, really good player.
From Southwest DeKalb.
There it is.
All right. Well, yeah. That's high school. And he went to Presbyterian College.
Thank you. I knew it was Presbyterian. Then he ended up transferring to Temple, where he had a really good year. Kind of put his name on the map. And then, like I said, at the Senior Bowl, he really opened some eyes, and he was definitely the best cornerback at the Senior Bowl. And he showed that he can be a press corner. He can be a guy that can shadow wide receivers. I think he might take a little bit. I think he could be a contributor day one, but he's definitely not. He might not have cornerback one upside, but I think he has kind of that in between, kind of like a Trey Waynes in the sense of, I don't know if he'll be a number one corner for a team, but he could be right on that verge, that above average style of play. But he's a really good player, fluid hips, physical. You like to see that from a guy like him. So I liked him a lot, and he tested pretty well too at the combine.
Nice. Who else you got? Rocky Sin.
Yeah.
And is there anyone whose name can rival Rocky Sin in this class?
As at corner, Sean Bunting.
Maybe no. Rock still got this locked up.
Amani Oruwariye.
Okay, maybe.
I can't say it, so I'm terrible and I'm butchering. He's on my list because he's a really good player.
Okay.
But David Long from Michigan's another one. He's a good player too. I think he's come along over the last couple of seasons, and I think he's really been able to show himself out as a day two player. Tested extremely well. Really liked what he was able to do at the combine, and I think that looking at you look at some of the spider. I like to look at spider charts too, just to kind of confirm. What am I seeing on tape from a guy? And then does that match how they test? And a guy like David Long, he's not the biggest. He's a little shade under 5'11", but on tape, he's a fluid athlete with quick twitch ability to get in and out of breaks. And then you look at his spider chart, and his 3 cones at 97th percentile. That shows up on tape. So that's something that you're like, okay, that matches. And that's something that I really, really like and like to see from him. And that's the kind of player he is. So there's some of that. He's got that ability to be able to shadow and potentially even kick inside because he's got that fluidity and that ability to change direction. So I like David Long quite a bit. Amani Oruwariye from Penn State. Again, I probably butchered that, but he's another one of those guys that I think is kind of being slept on. But he's got that ability. He's a big, lengthy corner, outside corner. Tested pretty decent at the combine. You look at his spider chart. Nothing pops out too much besides the height, weight, bench. But when you pop on his film, he's a fluid athlete that I liked as kind of that Seattle Seahawks style of defense. Maybe more of that cover 3 style. But that does have that ability to bump and run as well. And then lastly, Lonnie Johnson from Kentucky. He'd probably be the last guy that I have as a day 2 pick for me right now. Really liked his film. Really liked his ability. He's another one of those big lengthy corners that you're gonna hate when I say this, but this is the kind of guy that Zim would love to have on his team.
Okay. I'm not gonna hate it. More corners, the better.
I think it's more about where he gets taken. But if he's taken in the 3rd round, I don't think anybody have any issue with it. But he's 6'2", long arms, big physical guy. Ran a 4.52 jump, but he jumped extremely well. 38-inch vertical broad jump, 129 inches. That was a 90 percentile. But then you look at a 3-cone where he didn't even run his 3-cone under 7 seconds. So that kind of is worrisome a little bit. Some of that Trey Waynes to him, where you worry a little bit about that hip fluidity, but I don't think it's worrisome enough like a Trey Waynes where because of his ability to in press coverage. So I wouldn't be surprised if he was taken in that late day 2 range.
Okay, all right. Well, Myles, bring us home. Day 3. Who are the late round guys that you'd like to see a team maybe take a shot on that have either something you saw on tape or athleticism that you found to be particularly intriguing?
Yeah, Isaiah Johnson from Houston. His measurables are extremely nice. Really like what he's over 6'2", 80-inch wingspan. Tested in the as a 4.4. You really like to see that. He jumped 133 inches, 96 percentile. Had a decent 3-cone. So a guy like that on day 3 with those kind of measurables is it wouldn't surprise me if he snuck into day 2 because of measurables like that and some of the film that you see. But I do think he has some work to do. Some some of his technique. But I think if you get him into the right system with the right coach, he might be able to blossom into something. So I like him. I like him as an early day 3 guy. Joejuan Williams from Vanderbilt. I think he's more of a late guy. I can hear you typing right now. Wait, hold up.
Let me look. Hey, you hear me looking this dude up right now? That's another one of the made up names you got for me.
Yeah, that's probably one of those favorite names. But he's huge. He's 6'3" and 5'8", long arms. Didn't run well, so I think that's part of the problem. So he's more of a day 3 guy because he fits that Richard Sherman mold a little bit where he's really long and lengthy, but he doesn't have that long speed. So you kind of worry about the system you get him into. He might be pigeonholed into that, that zone coverage, the Tampa 2s or the cover 3 high. So his ability to not have to worry about that long speed as much. So playing off coverage. So that's kind of the worry with him. But
I don't normally want to do this, but I will say I'm a little upset about the spelling of this name because I feel like we got to stay in one language paradigm when we're going for these names. we can't start with English and then end up in Spanish. That's just making my life way more difficult than it needs to be.
It's tough, yeah.
Because I'm looking for Joejuan, and it's Joejuan.
Yeah, Joejuan Williams. Yeah,
Joejuan. Okay, well there we go. I have found him now, and I will put it in the show notes so those of you listening can look him up as well, and don't make the same mistake I do. I apologize for cutting you off there, but I was getting a little frustrated trying to find Joejuan initially. Continue.
It's all good. No, I think here's another guy that wouldn't surprise me if he snuck his way into an early day 3. Sean Bunting from Central Michigan. Wow, Sean Bunting from Central Michigan. He's a guy that I don't think is being talked about all that much, but he's definitely a guy that has a lot of ability and a lot of upside. But you look at his athletic testing and his chart there, and you really would not, like I said, would not be surprised if he found his way to the ability to sneak up a little bit because he's he's a really good player. He's got fluid hips, and he's the kind of guy. I mean, he's sick. He's just over 6 foot. Big hands. Ran a 4.42. He jumped a 41.5-inch vertical. 80th percentile broad jump. So like you see, like I hate continuing to use Mike Zimmer as an example, but Mike Zimmer loves to find him athletes that he can mold, and Sean Bunting's that kind of guy. He's the kind of guy that he can just get his hands on and be like, all right, I see the athleticism, I see the traits. Let's get you into it, because he struggles a little bit. He lunges, he oversets himself in press coverage at times, so that can hurt him a little bit. And he's not the biggest guy in the world. He's over 6 foot, but he could probably stand to gain like 5 to 10 pounds roughly. Stuff like that. And like I said, the read and react, there's some of that. You're missing some of that quick twitch off the ball or off the react, so that the ability to put your foot in the ground and drive. Would like to see a little bit more work off that, but otherwise, he's another one. He's one of those guys that has those athletic traits that really could stand out, and really could see him get an opportunity somewhere.
Love it, love it, love it. Anybody else? We going to UDFAs this time, or
no, we're not going that deep. We're not going that deep on this class, but Alabama. I mean, they always have people, right? Saivion Smith from Alabama didn't test all that great, so I think that's going to hurt him. But I mean, he played for Nick Saban. Nick Saban's they call him like the DB guru of college football. He's one of those guys that does a really good job of churning out good athletes and good defensive backs. So he's a guy that he plays technically sound. So you like to see that, and he's a guy that he understands the game, and you can see that on film. Obviously, there are some spots where you can tell that he gets beat because of the lack of athleticism. He didn't jump very well. His 3-cone 20-yard shuttle and 60-yard shuttle were not good at all. So like some of those small things, they show up, and you see the lack of athleticism on tape. And I'm sure that'll be why he goes on day 3. Could be a later round guy, but if you get him, he could be one of those depth pieces that plays special teams. So I'd keep an eye on him.
Okay, these some good names you got here. I only thought you made up like 2 or 3 before I hit the internet. So
yeah, like I said, it's a pretty good class. It's kind of like the receivers I don't think there isn't the people are off the charts about a DK Metcalf where there's that like true athletic freak. There really isn't that, but like there's a lot of guys on day 2 that you could get some depth and guys that have some potential to be starters.
Awesome. Well, that's depth and starters after the first day is really all you're looking for, and so there it is. That's it. That's all. Some great names for you to look up. They will all be in the show notes. There will be links to playerprofiler.com so you can check out all of these stats that Myles has been talking about. But that's it. We're done with the cornerbacks. We're almost done with all the position groups. We haven't mentioned it yet, but you probably heard JR before the episode. Go cop that draft guide. It is amazing. JR did a lot of great work. Amazing. Yeah, go on and get that. Link will be in the show notes, but pick it up, support JR, support a great cause. He does great work. And yeah, that's it. That's all. We will be back with another one of these tomorrow. Yeah, talk to you soon.